Hello, everyone. I'm Amissa, Marketing Manager here at Upkeep. Welcome to our webinar titled 8 Pillars of Asset Operations Management, Mastering Efficiency and Productivity. We are very excited to have you all here today. And before we get started with our topic today, let's go over a few things that you're going to need to know to be able to participate. So if you have any questions, please type your questions into the questions feature. It's like a little circle with a little question mark on it. We do have a jam-packed webinar today, so if for any reason we don't answer your questions live, we'll follow up afterwards with answers to those. Also, if you have any comments, type those into the chat feature, which looks like just a little message icon with 3 dots on it. We'll be asking some audience questions today, and putting your answers in the chat is going to be best. So let's test out the chat feature. Let us know where you're joining us from in the chat and answer this question. Imagine maintenance had its own Olympics. Which event would you excel in? Looks like we got Karen joining us from California. Oh, we got the UK present, San Antonio present. Someone from Greece.
All right.
Houston.
Africa as well.
Yeah. Does anyone have an answer?
Oh,
if you were in the maintenance, where's that?
Oh my gosh, there's too many. I saw downhill skiing.
Oh, if maintenance had its own Olympics, which event would you excel in? I really want to know what you guys are good at.
Decathlon, all right.
Pole vault.
I think we're going to come up with a new Olympics called the Preventive Maintenance Best Practices Olympics.
Yes, I like that. Running in circles, firefighting. Those make the most sense to me.
Oh man.
As it pertains to maintenance.
We're just starting new sports at this point.
Purchase orders requested. That would be a gold medal in purchase orders requested. Cat herding. Okay, well, thank you all for joining us. Those were some really fun answers. It is time to get started. So without further ado, I'm introducing our speaker today, Ryan Chan, CEO of Upkeep. Ryan, you want to introduce yourself?
All right. Thank you so much, Amissa, and thank you everyone for joining us today. And it's really interesting hearing everyone's thoughts on what sport maintenance would be. It's also really cool to see everyone be so engaged in these webinars. If you've been to a few of our webinars, this is not just a sit back, relax type of webinar, but we try to keep everyone engaged. So it looks like that chat is working, Amissa, and we're going to make use of that. Throughout the entire conversation today, we'll post some questions, get your thoughts. We're also going to have some time at the very, very end for some Q&A. As Amissa mentioned, my name is Ryan. I'm the CEO and founder here at Upkeep. She also mentioned it's jam-packed. I've got about 60 minutes today, and I think I have about 90 slides. So it's going to be jam-packed. My agenda for today is, one, share a little bit more about myself, my story. And then we'll go into where I think maintenance is today, where it's going to be in the future. And then we're going to really dig deep into what the asset operations, management framework is, and then how and why I think it's critical for the industry. Not only are we just going to share at a very, very high level what asset operations is, but I want to tell you what the 8 pillars of asset operations is through our customer stories. So we're going to go through some case studies. We're going to hear from some of our Upkeep customers on how they've implemented asset operations at their plants, at their facilities, and for their teams. And then we'll conclude it with some interesting, hopefully interesting final thoughts. And again, we'll open it up for some Q&A. I've got one goal for us today. You all are spending 1 hour of your time. My goal by the very, very end of today is to inspire us to be part of shaping the future of maintenance. if there's one thing I hope we all take away from today is how is our asset data organized at our team, at our company, within our departments, and how is it used? So just remember that. I want us to be inspired to be part of shaping the future of maintenance. And if there's one question I want us to all take away is go back to our teams and ask ourselves, how and where is our asset data stored? All right. Let me tell you a little bit about myself, my story, who I am, before I jump too far into the 8 pillars of asset operations. Again, my name is Ryan. I'm the CEO and founder here at Upkeep. A little bit about my background. I went to Cal Berkeley as a chemical engineer, and I worked at a DuPont spinout called Tricep. This is me on literally my very first day of work. We manufactured reverse osmosis membranes for brackish water, desalination, a little bit of wastewater. And my role there was a process engineer. We're going around the plants, and I was responsible for looking at our process, our manufacturing process, thinking about how it could go better, faster, smoother, and run more productively, and hopefully break down less. This was my entire job. I was actually part of the team that was responsible for picking, choosing, implementing maintenance software. And when I did, our team looked for the best thing that we could possibly find. And this is what our process looked like. We would be in a factory. One of the boilers would go down. Someone would walk by, go, oh, crap, the boiler's out. Pick up their phone, call a facility manager. So this is step number 2 here. The facility manager would be, like, okay, write it down on a piece of paper and pencil, call a technician who then writes it down on a piece of paper and pencil, goes to the job site, fixes the repair, fixes the boiler, writes all of her notes down on a piece of paper and pencil. And then, again, we had just come out with this brand new maintenance software that, promised us all the reasons why our equipment was failing and what we could do about it. And then we asked them to go back to the office and then retype all their notes back in. It was tremendously cumbersome. This entire process for maintenance and maintenance software and, getting a better understanding of why our equipment was failing, it was so broken. There's a double, triple entry process in all of this. And as you guys, all know, I went to Berkeley. If you don't know where Berkeley is, it's in the center of Northern California, in the center of Silicon Valley. It was supposed to be the heart of innovation in technology. But I remember, after graduating, going to school, working in a manufacturing plant, I asked myself, man, where the hell is all the innovation? I remember seeing, all these headlines saying, wasn't AI, machine learning supposed to take over factory floors? I remember looking at, headliners saying 30 million US workers are going to lose their jobs because of AI, and 20 million jobs are going to be replaced by robots and AI automation, and just headline after headline. I was just thinking, man, I'm reading all these headlines, but I'm seeing something so completely different working in a manufacturing facility. And I was told time and time again that things in this industry were the way that they were, and it would take decades for anything to change. So I want to ask us all this next question. How quickly are you seeing innovation take change at your plant or facility? Type it into the chat. I kind of want to know. I had a very, my one experience, and it just felt so slow. What about you?
They're typing. Let's see. Derek says, still in the Stone Age.
All right.
So that must be very slow. Robert says 1 to 3 years.
Surely but slowly. Slow adoption of innovation.
Yeah. Sometimes at a snail's pace. Okay.
Haven't seen any change.
Yeah. It sounds pretty similar across the board here.
I thought working in a manufacturing plant, I thought technology should make the days, lives, and jobs easier for technicians and managers. And ultimately, it wasn't. Technology wasn't. Just looking at all the comments, it seems like there were a lot of similar commonalities between my experience and what's still going on today. And ultimately, I wound up taking the leap and saying, hey, if change isn't happening at my plant, I'm going to create change. And I just believe that technology, again, should make the days, lives, and jobs easier. And this shift in mindset ultimately got us and Upkeep to where we are today. It was just this belief that it can be done. And remember, my one goal for today is just to inspire us to be part of this change. I think most of us here know that, today we've transformed over 4,000 businesses off of pen and paper and into this digital world. Change can happen. It is sometimes slow, but it can be done. And ultimately, I feel very privileged to say we've played a small role in transforming the industry, but I think that there's a long road ahead of us. And I think that there's this time that it's time for us to introduce another shift in mindset again. And this change in mindset is what we are calling asset operations. Before we can look forward, I want us to look at where we are today. I think that maintenance is divided right now. I think organizations are split up into 3 different teams where you have operations that cares about what's happening right now, hitting production goals right now, today. I think maintenance teams are oftentimes called in when equipment breaks, and they care about what repairs they need to do today. And then you have a reliability team that oftentimes is looking more at a risk management level over the next 10 years. All 3 different departments are working on the same asset in parallel, but they're not working together. I think that maintenance is divided. And you see these 3 different teams, maintenance, operations, reliability, everything that they're doing for their assets is separated into silos. You have data in silos. You have IoT data, ERP data, technical data. You have more data than ever. But it's fragmented across these many, many different systems. And ultimately, when you have different systems, different sources of truth, you have different perspectives. And I think that this is what's causing this big divide between maintenance, reliability, and operations. So again, I told you I wanted to make this entire webinar very, very interactive. This again is my experience and our collective experience with so many of our Upkeep customers. I want to ask you all, is your asset data stored in a single repository that's accessible? Or do you feel like it's also disjointed in many different systems?
Got a lot of typers. Derek says his is accessible.
Yeah. All right.
Craig says, I'm seeing many companies still have multiple systems housing asset data.
Scattered all over, getting there, different systems, changing, inaccessible to a single system, right now, disjointed. You got PMs and Work and Maximo and Cost and SAP, no single source of truth for assets. It seems like we have a mix. Mm-hmm. There's some companies that have very highly accessible data across the entire asset lifecycle. And then it seems like a lot of companies are still stuck with data scattered everywhere. You might have IoT data, ERP data, CMMS maintenance data, APM data in different systems. I love it. Thank you, Gustavo. Yes, thanks to me, because I pull it from 8 different programs and websites. Absolutely. We're dealing with MES systems, SAP, SCADA systems, Power BI, absolutely, Darko. Like, this is so common, where you have data in different silos, in different systems, and it's creating different sources of truth. But not only does it create different sources of truth, it actually creates more work. I think silo data causes information gaps turning into rework. There's a stat that's out there right now. It says 20% of work done in the field from a technician is literally rework. It is work that is done because the first time it was done incorrectly. And I think that this is because it was a lack of available data. So I don't think that this is the technician's fault. The 20% of work that we do is literally just rework. I think it's because they don't have access to the right information to get it done correctly the first time. Rework, to Greg's point, is a huge problem. And on top of that, we're creating a ton of rework. Every single team, when you have disjointed silos of data, disjointed silos of teams and departments, every single team has a different measure of success. Again, we're all working on the same exact asset, but we're approaching our work with misaligned goals. You have maintenance that cares and is goal based off of work completed. You have operations that cares about production throughput and hitting production goals for today, this week, this month. And you have reliability that cares about long-term longevity of an asset. But we're all working on the same exact asset. And I believe everyone wants to improve the bottom line, but right now we're working very independently to achieve this. Again, you've got ERPs, CMS, APM data. It's all siloed, disjointed, disconnected. And I think it's preventing us from being successful as a team. So again, another question to everyone out here that has and is joining us right now and today. I want to hear from you. Is your maintenance, operations, reliability teams working in unison?
Nope. Nope. That's an unfortunate no.
Absolutely not. Okay.
Yeah. 50-50. Working towards it. That's a good place.
Yes and no, and sometimes in trying.
Brad Jones says absolutely. That's good.
I think the common consensus that we hear is not really. And if not, then everyone wants to. And at the end of the day, fighting each other all the time. I think at the end of the day, I think we can all, it's not my job. That's a very, very common theme that we hear. It's not my job. It's constant bickering. It's, fighting each other. But again, we take it back a level and we realize everyone wants to improve the bottom line. We're all working on the same equipment, but we're doing it independently. And I think right now, this is simply not working. This is a big buildup to what asset operations is, but really what asset operations is the fundamental framework for how to drive unison and alignment between maintenance, reliability, and operations onto one single team. Again, this is not working today. Through dividing work into 3 different teams, people are stuck into the cycle of being misunderstood, undervalued, and undersupported. Right now, technology is terrible. We oftentimes don't have the right technological systems to bridge these departments, maintenance, reliability, operations, under one department with a single source of truth where you can look at the entire asset life cycle. Right now, budgets are misinformed. Oftentimes, the way that maintenance budgets are set is a percentage RAV, replacement asset value. But there's very little reason or rhyme or reason as to why. Why is it 3% this year, not 5%? Why should we be, oftentimes it's a run rate. It's, hey, this is how much we were spending in maintenance, this year. Let's reduce it down by like 5% next year. We don't have the right formula to help us really understand what our budget should be. And misunderstood, I think maintenance teams right now are measured by what they do, not why they do it. We sent out a survey last year and we asked our customers in the entire maintenance community, what do you care most about and how do you measure it? They said, we care most about reducing downtime, and the way that we're measuring outcomes is how many completed planned preventive maintenance work orders do we do. We think that's the wrong metric. We think that's measuring maintenance teams based off of what they do, how many hours you work, how many wrenches you turn, how many work orders you complete the checkbox off of, not really measuring the outcome, the productivity of the work that we do. This is the fundamental premise behind asset operations. Connect data and enable us to connect the what we do to why we do it. And right now, there's a big disconnect between what actually matters to business and how it's measured. What happens if this all continues? I think if this continues, the three different teams are going to remain divided. Company leadership is going to continue to view maintenance as a cost center where, it is purely just looked at by how many work orders you complete, not really measuring the impact that maintenance has to business bottom line. If we don't have the right data that explains what we do, why we do it, and the impact that it has to the bottom line, the best way that maintenance is going to be viewed, again, is just as a cost center. All right. I know at the very top I said, hey, my goal is to inspire us all to be part of shaping the future. This probably isn't sounding very, very inspirational just yet, but I do want to ask you all to stay with me. We do have this opportunity to break this cycle. And the most powerful thing we can do to shift this industry's mindset is just believe. Believe that we all have the opportunity and power to shift this industry's mindset one person at a time, one company at a time, one team, one department at a time. And the premise behind asset operations is to transition three different teams with three different goals, with three different sources of truth and data sets into one team that we're calling asset operations, where instead of just looking at, repairs today, production today, work orders tomorrow, or the long-term longevity risk over the next 10 years, you have one department that views the entire asset lifecycle, that cares and is measured, not based off of how many work orders you complete, but instead based off of business outcomes. If you're a facility manager and you have customers sitting in your facilities, commercial property, what cares most about your business? It's how the facility is maintained. If you're an asset manager at a manufacturing plant, what do you care most about? Uptime, reducing downtime, production throughput. We want to goal and measure an asset operations team based off of business outcomes, not just off of how many work orders you complete or how many hours did you work. And I think as one team, you have isolated data that feeds into a single central command center. And if and when we do this, you have an integrated view that enables our customers and you all to view and optimize your assets across the entire asset lifecycle. And if and when we're successful with this, we can start to change the conversation from how many hours did you work today? How many work orders did you hit the complete button on? To this is the value that we've added to the business. All right, not only is this possible, but I think it's more important than ever. The vision behind asset operations is about threading the entire organization's maintenance management, passive to active data about its assets and create this operational blueprint to make it easier and faster for every single employee to get what they need to do their jobs more successfully. The asset operations vision is about threading a single source of truth across the entire asset lifecycle, bridging maintenance, reliability, and operations teams under one department to speak one common language, to stop the infighting, stop the bickering, and drive towards the same shared, unified goal and metric of success. That's the AOM vision. So we've talked quite a bit about what the asset operations vision is. And I want to break it down into what the 8 pillars of asset operations is through our customer stories to make it a little bit more tangible. So I'm going to quickly cover what the 8 pillars are, and then we're going to go into some case studies of how our customers have really implemented this vision behind single central command center across maintenance, reliability, operations, unifying and streamlining all of your data to have one common source of truth. All right, let's go through the 8 pillars of asset operations. Pillar number 1 is that maintenance, reliability, and operations teams must operate together and be aligned on achieving a common goal. You can't do anything you can't do anything together unless you're aligned on what that shared common goal is. Step number 2, or pillar number 2, is data must flow into a single repository. Pillar number 3 is measure teams based on why they do something rather than what they do. Pillar number 4 is relentlessly collect the right data, display the best insights, and provide actionable feedback through a centralized command center. Pillar number 5, asset operations is an abundant life cycle, not just a point in time. Pillar number 6 is you can only improve what you measure. Pillar number 7, diligently measure the efficiency of your assets. And pillar number 8 is maintenance, reliability, and operations teams can be a revenue driver, not a cost center. So with that, I want to talk a little bit about some of our customers and share some of the case studies that our customers have, been so grateful to enable us and allow us to share with, the broader world. So the first pillar of asset operations, probably one of the most important ones, is that maintenance, reliability, and operations teams must operate together and align on achieving a common goal. So I want to talk a little bit about one of our customers called Glidewell. They're a manufacturing business, roughly about 2,000 employees. Before Upkeep, before the asset operations management vision that they set out on, they kind of told us that they had just, inefficient processes leading to misaligned teams between their production team and also maintenance. There's a lot of infighting, and there's a lot of disconnect between communication between the production team and the maintenance team. I'm sure so many of us here can understand that and relate to it. It's such a common problem that, there's this disconnect, miscommunication between production and also maintenance. And so what they said was, hey, instead of having different goals between the maintenance team, the production team, let's just align on this OEE metric. Everyone was, had this single mission. Didn't matter, who you were. Everyone in the company on the production floor had a shared goal and said, OEE is our #1 metric. It doesn't matter how many work orders you complete, how many PMs you complete. We believe that completing PMs and doing our work orders will lead to a better, higher OEE score. But that's what we care about as a business. And it's really cool. Glidewell wound up seeing faster, better communication, less infighting, and actually quicker shift transitions. Really interesting, kind of like outcome of a shared common goal. It no longer became about just purely how many work orders did you complete, how many hours did you work. Instead, it was about, hey, how can we transition the next shift over quicker, better, faster? Because, that OEE counter, it wasn't stopping during, shift transitions, kept going. And ultimately, what Anita said, one of our customers, she said, visibility actually improved our relationships with the production departments. Every single time it improved the communication, there was quicker shift transitions, and, people were just so motivated on, trying to boost up this OEE numbers that not only was it better, but it was actually faster. Communication actually improved. So this pillar #1 on aligning every single department, every single team to a shared common goal actually drives so much good alignment. And you start to see these second, third order effects that just ultimately improve not just communication, but collaboration. And you get people thinking much more creatively on how we can get to the business outcomes. And the business outcomes weren't just, oh, let's create and complete one more work order. It was really focused on the business bottom line. All right, asset operations management, pillar number 2. Data must flow into a single repository. So another one of our customers, they had all of these different systems. For this customer in particular, it was oil gas fleet management company, about 1,000 people at their company, and they had a big fleet side of their business where not only were they managing assets, but they're also placing all their equipment into large fleets, setting up oil and gas setups, and then plowing down. And they had so much equipment that was constantly moving, and they had all these different silos of data. They had their fleet management system, they had their GPS tracking system, they had sensors, they had IoT data, and then they ultimately had their asset management warehouse. And then basically they were just struggling to know where their equipment was to begin with. And so what they said was, hey, we've got all these different silos of data all around, different departments. So what we're going to do is just centralize all of our data into a single repository. We're going to take our fleet management data, we're going to take our GPS data, we're going to take our sensors data, and also our upkeep maintenance data. And we're going to drive it all into a single repository. For them, it happened to be upkeep. They said upkeep is going to be our source of truth that stores where our equipment is, what the temperatures are, what sensors, feeding sensor data into meters. And hey, we're going to have all of our PMs, work orders, POs, all in one single central system. And in a very, very short period, they're able to realize over $500,000 in savings by just simply integrating these systems into a single repository. There's a lot less tracking down where this equipment is. There's a lot less rework. There's a lot less, just fumbling around where parts are. They were able to start to set up automated work orders and triggers based off of where a truck and where their assets were moving towards, and finding the best people to do the job based off of where they were. It was really cool. Really, really awesome to start to see some of the integrations, workflows, and automations that you can start to build once you have data from different systems. They got very advanced with geofences and said, hey, because we connected where the fleet is and where our equipment is, we can start to set up some automations for technicians in that local area to start servicing and setting up and running PMs, because now we actually have where the fleet is. And they didn't have access to that before. Instead, they would have to go into a separate system, manually look at where this equipment was and where it was moving towards, and then go into a different system and try to figure out which technicians are where. It's really awesome to see how integrated systems can drive better productivity and better workflows that we never even knew were possible. Getting this single central data store was critical to their success in saving, $500,000. It cost them $10,000 to build an integration. In the first year, they saved $500,000. All right. Pillar number 3, measure teams based on why they do, not what they do. I want to talk about one of our customers, Molycop, mining industry, about 1,000 employees. Again, pillar number 3 is measure teams on why they do something, not what they do. Before upkeep, they're storing everything in Excel spreadsheets. And how many completed planned preventive maintenance, that was the measure of success. How many completed planned preventive maintenance work orders do we do? And again, similar to our very first customer, they said, hey, let's shift the goal and metric of success from not just, how many PMs do you complete? And instead, let's measure success based off of production throughput. in a short period of time, 5% increase in availability in their plant. Again, it's just this shift in mindset and what success and how success is measured. I'm going to share another, very, very interesting stat that we oftentimes hear. Oftentimes we see and hear, oh, there's not enough time in the day to complete all of our PMs. But once Molycop got this goal to, just improve plant availability and, measure success based on production throughput, and it was no longer about how many PMs do we complete. Very interesting. Number one thing that often happens is we actually wind up getting rid of PMs. Just let me pause there again. We oftentimes get rid of PMs. Oftentimes the PMs that we do are ineffective. So much of the time we are just afraid and scared to actually remove PMs because one, that's how we measure our success oftentimes. But we here at Upkeep think that's the wrong measure of success. It shouldn't be about how many PMs you complete. It should be about whether or not these PMs are effective and productive and are worth the investment, even if it's not in dollars, but time. And oftentimes, PMs could have been created 10 years ago from a plant manager that may have not really, it could be for a failure mode that may not exist anymore. And oftentimes, it could be, the safety risk department that says, oh, hey, it's safer if we don't get rid of that PM. But it's upon us to really ask ourselves, hey, is this PM still effective? Is it still important today? Too often, we leave PMs in place just because we're afraid to get rid of it. But once you start measuring teams based off of the effectiveness of these PMs and work orders and the work that they do, it really shifts people's mindset into asking themselves, hey, maybe this PM isn't effective. Maybe, this problem, this failure mode does not exist anymore. And maybe it's worth it for us to go back and optimize our PMs. And just by doing that one thing, so many of our customers have started to see just better availability in the plant, higher production throughput goals. All right. Pillar number 4, collect the right data, display the best insights, provide actionable feedback through a centralized command center. Tell you about one of our other customers, manufacturing Welch Packaging. They didn't have, before Upkeep, they did not have a centralized command center. They didn't have a single person, a central command center that took in requests. Instead, it was just 5 different modes of communication. Broken boiler, hey, call a facility manager, leave a sticky note on their desk, stop them in the hallway, send them a text message. So many different modes of communication. They didn't know who to go to for what. When they turned to us, they said, hey, we need a central command center. So one person, one team, was responsible for fielding in requests, knowing who to go to for what, and what was the schedule for today. And basically, they centralized their entire team to this central command center for all things maintenance, reliability, operations. Basically said, this team is going to be responsible for production schedules, for maintenance today, for PMs tomorrow, for parts and inventory. There's one person, one department, one team that drove the whole schedule. It was really their nucleus, the brains of their company, the asset management team. And they started to just immediately see big gains. They saw more transparency because now, they actually had a single department that knew what was going on throughout the entire day. They had visibility across the entire asset lifecycle. It was no longer about, which team do I have to go to for what question? Do I go to the maintenance team for, repairs and work orders today, do I go to the operations team for the production schedule? It was really just one team for the entire schedule. It improved transparency, enabled them quicker visibility into their parts and inventory. It just made everything faster by having a central command center across maintenance, reliability, and operations teams, not separate silos of data that would hoard on to information and oftentimes be reluctant to sharing. Our champion there, Brandon, he mentioned, Upkeep has given them the organizational skills that they needed to be successful. They saw big savings in a short period of time and, big gains from just centralizing who to go to for what. All right, pillar number 5 is continuous improvement is an abundant life cycle, not just a point in time. So, oftentimes we talk about these big projects across maintenance, reliability, operations as just being like, hey, I even see in the chat here, PM optimization. It's a common theme to just do a PM optimization, once and then kind of forget about it. And maybe if we're lucky, we'll do it again, next year or the year after that, or maybe 5 years or so. This was actually the story with one of our other customers, Nat Gas, another oil and gas company. Ricardo was the technical director over there. And he mentioned to me and to us that, reliability analyses, these PM optimizations, they were very few and far in between. They'd do it once, take it, go really, really deep into, how we could better maintain our equipment and how we could better maintain and manage and optimize our PMs. But honestly, it just seemed like it was very far and few in between. And when they came to Upkeep and really embraced the asset operations vision, they said, no, it's not just about doing it once a year. It's not just about doing it, once every 5 years. They want this constant real-time reporting. Because once they had these real-time reports, they were able to change. They were able to, react almost on the daily. And that enabled them to have this just like constant, be better than we were yesterday mindset. So it was really cool. I even saw some pictures of, some of the dashboards that Ricardo, had set up for his team. It's literally a big screen on the middle of their team floor that showcases all the metrics in real time. And then he set up like almost like a color board where it was green, yellow, red. And he could see, what was going on at their plant, their facilities in real time as it was happening. And it enabled them to just constantly improve. He could ask the team at the end of the day, what happened? Why did it happen? How can we be better? But what we saw, what he was doing before was, maybe if they were lucky, they would do it once a year. They would look at all their PMs. They would ask themselves, are these effective? How should we reprioritize? Maybe that was happening at once a year, maybe once every 6 months. But enabling real-time reporting enabled him to just improve this process, cut down the time, so he could do it almost every single day in real time. All right, pillar number 6, everything measured can be improved. One of our customers, Layfield Manufacturing, it kind of started out prior to Upkeep, say everything was just, it was difficult to track anything to begin with. Everything was paper pen. It was difficult to track. It was difficult to manage. And again, these big projects, they don't have to be, year-long projects. And I think for Dave and the Layfield team, they kind of said, hey, anything that we measure can be improved and can be, fixed. But we're not going to try to boil the ocean. We're not going to try to figure out and find the 3,000 metrics that move our business. Instead, let's just start with one, a very, very simple metric, mean time to repair. we're just going to start tracking MTTR. And what he and they found was, man, just by tracking this like mean time to repair, you can just drastically start to improve this number. Before there was very visibility because everything was done on paper and pen. Mean time to repair, there was no metric of mean time to repair. It was just, I think it took about like 6 hours. Once they started tracking mean time to repair, they started realizing, oh, wow, we can actually change how fast we respond to requests and repairs. And ultimately that trickled down into improving uptime for their plant, their facility. And once they started tackling this metric, they said, all right, cool. We can improve MTTR. Let's move on to other metrics. Let's look at availability, downtime, OEE. Everything measured can be improved. And we don't, again, have to blow the ocean and find the 3,000 metrics and try to, improve every single metric across the board. Pick one, start small, and then expand over time. All right, pillar number 7, data accessibility wherever you are. We kind of talked about this in the very, very beginnings of this webinar, but it sounds like many people don't have accessible data. It's not accessible. It's in many different systems and different silos. But I want to throw out, something unique and creative that one of our other customers did to, I think that took a different approach to data accessibility. It wasn't just about centralizing it all in one data warehouse, because they did do that. But instead, they took it one step farther. So let me tell you a little bit about Scholl IPN. Again, another manufacturing company, customer of ours. Not only did they have disjointed systems, solutions that had maintenance data over here and reliability over there and production data over there. And not only did they have different systems, but everything was just desktop based. And so what they did was they moved not only to just a mobile system, but they really incorporated QR codes for ease of use. It's not just, do we have a central data warehouse, but is it accessible? That was the other key point in this pillar. Not only is it stored together, but is it accessible? And to make accessibility a key priority for Scholl IPN, they said, we're going to incorporate QR codes. We're going to put QR codes all around our plant, on every single asset, on every single part for their inventory. So a technician, a facility manager could walk up to that asset, scan a QR code, and automatically get the entire asset registry of what components, what parts they need to use. It showed the entire asset history from purchase price to when it was installed, to ongoing maintenance, to the last reliability analysis that was run on this asset. They took accessibility one step farther. It wasn't just about having it all centralized in a single data warehouse. It was about how accessible is it for the end user, for the technician to get the data that they need to do their jobs correctly the first time to prevent rework. Really, really cool. Again, taking accessibility to the next level. All right, our last pillar, and I promise I'm going to close it out, answer some questions. Maintenance, reliability, operations are revenue drivers, not just cost centers. So our last customer, food, beverage, manufacturing customer of ours, about 100 people. And they kind of looked at their maintenance department. And I remember, talking to them in the very, very beginnings. It was just, management was looking at them every single year. Hey, why do our costs just keep going up? Why do our costs just keep, skyrocketing? Why is maintenance going up and up and up and it never seems to go down? And maintenance just was looked at by management as a pure cost center. And they implemented the AOM practices and a lot of the other practices that, our previous 7 pillars started with, and they were able to change the perspective from management. They set new production and revenue records. They're just better maintenance, reliability, operations practices through the first 7 pillars of asset operations. They had more data that was stored in a single central command center. They had unified goals across maintenance, reliability, operations teams. They made data accessible. They made continuous improvement a constant and abundant life cycle. And again, they started to shift the mindset of their management team from maintenance just constantly being looked at from, maintenance increasing every single year in terms of cost to, wow, better maintenance, better operations, better alignment can actually help us as a company set better revenue and production goals as a company. These are 8 pillars of asset operations. And I've given this talk a few times. Oftentimes, the kind of objections that come up, I like how this sounds, but it probably won't happen here today. I said at the very beginning, I worked in a manufacturing plant, and that was the common theme that I heard, the common objection that I heard. I want to say, upkeep has been this tremendous, rewarding journey that I've been on over the last 8 years. And it all really started with, me believing that, hey, we can change the industry. We've really just gotten started. And I think that, impossible things have happened before. And it starts with, all of us believing that it can be done, that we are the ones responsible for driving change. And not only is it possible, but it's also more important than ever. I just wrapped up, my conversations with the community. I talked to over 100 people in our community, and there's one common theme. The labor shortage is real. Turnover is high. There's going to be a big shortage of people and workers. And if we constantly look at maintenance as a cost center, the problem's only going to get worse. It's 36% harder to find talent. Attrition rates are as high as 25% in our industry. And the hiring rates are struggling to keep up with the ability and talent of the pool of employees. Imagine just churning over your entire workforce every 4 years. That's what's happening with these attrition rates. If we don't start to change the perception of maintenance, it's going to get a lot worse. Not only, do we have this big labor shortage, but there's more connected assets than ever. If you want to be part of shaping and changing where the future is going for this industry, it really is in data. There's more data, more connected assets, more sensors than ever. But right now, it's all siloed. You got CMS, you got APM systems, you got, ERP systems. If you want to be part of shaping and changing where the future is headed for this industry, I can tell you there's going to be more connected assets, more data, higher quality data. It's about how we use this data. And I think the asset operations vision is this vision behind a shared common repository of data that's accessible across maintenance, reliability, operations teams that encompasses the entire asset lifecycle. We're going to start to see, more technicians, more equipment, but more data than ever. This is just an exponentially growing chart of how much data there will be. And if we don't, focus on centralizing all of our data, we lose a big opportunity that we have to make smarter decisions about how we manage our assets. I think the future of maintenance is possible, necessary. And I think it all starts with us here today. And I'm excited to, read these headlines, how asset operations teams are going to make their business millions of dollars, and it being the secret weapon to top producing manufacturing companies. As you all know, we wrote a book on asset operations. We just scratched the surface with asset operations today in this presentation. But really, if you want to do a deeper dive into what it is, grab our book. There's 3 parts of it: why asset operations, the 8 pillars, and then ultimately implementing asset operations at your company. And you can actually grab a free copy. So if you made it this far into our presentation, I do want to say thank you. Thank you for listening to me speak for the past 55 minutes. As a thank you for that, basically what I and the Upkeep team have committed to is, if you send me an email at ryan@upkeep.com, I'll give you a free copy of the Asset Operations book if you send me your one big takeaway from today. What's one thing you learned from today? Shoot me an email at ryan@upkeep.com, and we'll send you a free copy of the Asset Operations book. You can also purchase the book at assetoperations.com, and every single dollar that we make from this book, we're going to donate it back to the maintenance community. Make 0 profit off of this book. If you want to support the community, buy a copy of the Asset Operations book. And again, we donate every single dollar, every single penny that we make from this book back to the maintenance community to do good. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Any questions? I think we got 3 minutes.
There was definitely some questions today. Let me scroll through here and find them. We have, let's see, a more recently asked question. Ryan, which of the 8 pillars is most important? Are these 8 pillars all interconnected or interrelated? I mean, can you pick one and become successful with it?
There isn't a single most important pillar. It really starts from it's sequencing, and it's kind of laid out in that manner for a reason. Pillar number 1, we start there, and it really is about team alignment. That's where I would start. But you're not done once you drive team alignment between maintenance, reliability, operations teams, because again, asset operations isn't just about team alignment once in today. It's about this constant, improvement cycle. So long story, long answer to the question, there isn't a single most important pillar. It is a series of steps. And the first step is oftentimes the most challenging, but one of the most important to kickstarting your asset operations management journey.
Okay. We have another question. So speaking about whole asset lifecycle, how do you bring the effect of a new asset design into the picture as it significantly affects reliability and maintainability during the O&M phase?
Yeah. Oh, that's such a good question, because so often do we purchase equipment or we're designing equipment without the operating and maintenance in mind? It's a very good question. And the question is how? And again, comes into how do we bridge together these departments? It really is about bridging, not just operations and maintenance, but even getting the design phase incorporated into maintenance and reliability. It's so important. And again, it all comes back to do we have streamlined goals? Do we have a streamlined team? Do we have a single department that's responsible for overseeing the entire asset lifecycle? I mean, maybe I don't have a direct answer for you, but I think we all know the answer. It really comes down to streamlined team collaboration. And do we have effective lines of communication between not just operations and maintenance, actually, but you're totally right. At the design installation phase too, do we have communication collaboration?
Okay, let's see. What types of analysis drives your typical PM optimization decisions?
What types of analyses drive PM optimizations? Oh, good question.
Okay.
I mean, we work with, if you want a very, very specific answer, it depends on your company, your department, your types of equipment. Here at Upkeep, what we do is we partner with probably like 50 different consultants that can help you in your organization. We don't do this, here at Upkeep. Instead, we partner with the best in class reliability consultants that can come in, step in, help support some PM optimizations, whether it's, RCMs or 5 Ys or whatnot. We can help facilitate these introductions. This is what our consultants and our experts do day in and day out.
Okay, we're on time, but one more question. One more. What's your best advice to drive adoption of AOM at a given organization?
Start small. This is a good question there. Very, very good question. We laid out the 8 pillars of asset operations. There's so many in there. But really, when we see these big projects kind of like unfold, we start to see people like get really inspired we see people get really inspired, really excited from these presentations, and then look up at Mount Everest and go, oh my gosh, this is a big undertaking. What one of our customers did, they just started with MTTR, start tracking one metric, drive alignment, pick one of these pillars and say, hey, we're going to get really good at this.
Yeah, that's good. Okay, well, I don't think we got to all the questions, so just to let you guys know, we will follow up and get answers to you. We really appreciate you all being here. It means a lot to us.
Thank you, everyone, for sticking around, asking questions, being so engaged in today's webinar. Again, please send me an email, ryan@upkeep.com. I want to hear feedback from today, and we'll give you a free copy of our asset operations book.
Yeah, thank you all. Bye.
Have a great rest of your Tuesday.